You're watching Car Babble. I'm Ewan. And if you're shopping for a family SUV, a proper size family SUV, not one of these little cars on stilts, because there's loads of them as well, but you want a Hyundai, you've decided that's what you want, your options are basically a Hyundai Tucson, which is a 5-seater, that's the one I'm sitting in right now, or you can get its bigger brother, the 7-seat Hyundai Santa Fe, which we own. Now, I've just reviewed the Tucson, my mum's car, and I've obviously reviewed my Santa Fe, which is already on the channel, so keep an eye out for the Tucson coming up soon. And I thought maybe before I handed this back to her, I would do a little comparison between some of the key differences between the two cars. Because if you're looking to buy one of these and you go, what's the difference in value for the extra $6 roughly you're going to pay for the Santa Fe over the Tucson spec for spec? Do you really need a 7-seater, and what really are you getting extra for your money? So I'm going to try and answer some of those key questions for you in this video. 5 differences. So if you enjoy my videos, don't forget to like and subscribe. Otherwise, buckle up and let's get into it. Now, the top spec in either car is called the Ultimate spec, and it sounds like it does what it says on the tin. It's pretty much got everything thrown at it, or does it? In the Santa Fe, you get just that little bit more than you do in the Ultimate Tucson. So you get 4-way electric lumbar support as opposed to 2 in the Tucson. You get no lumbar support in either passenger seat, by the way. You get 10 speakers in the Krell upgraded sound system instead of 8 in the Tucson. You get front ISOFIX, which is really handy. You get rear sunblinds and a little bit more electric adjustment in the passenger seat. So there are just a few things I picked up on. There might be more, but that really does go to show that the extra money you spend goes somewhere. Now, not comparing apples with apples exactly here, because I drive the Santa Fe in Ultimate spec, and therefore you've got the leather seats. And yeah, it's probably gonna have a few touches that are Ultimate spec related, as opposed to the Tucson, which is in premium spec and has cloth seats. So forget the seats for a second. The general look of the center console and all the tech and infotainment is gonna look the same regardless of the spec, as long as you're at least premium spec, and therefore you get the digital cockpit. And I would say the fit and finish and the general quality and feel in the Santa Fe feels more premium than in the Tucson. It feels like it's almost in the premium category, along with, Audi, Germans, etc. In the Tucson, I feel like it's much more of a mainstream stroke budget brand car. It feels plasticier in places. It's still well built, but there's a lot of piano black. The buttons don't feel as nicely damped. They feel a bit cheaper. They've definitely cut a few corners to save cost in this car. So in terms of that side of things, the quality in the Santa Fe definitely warrants a bigger price tag. Now, an area where I think the Santa Fe definitely wins for me, especially for someone who likes a lot of buttons, is on the way they've angled the infotainment display and all the buttons, and there's more buttons, and they're easier, proper buttons to press on the move. In the Tucson, you need to watch my full video about this where I'll go into more detail, but essentially the angle of these buttons, and there's less of them, so you're going to use the touchscreen just a little bit more. Everything about looking at this whole center console involves a lot more attention in the Tucson than it does in the Santa Fe. And yeah, that's just distracting, and it's going to lead to you, not realizing that there's somebody crossing the road while you're faffing about down here, slam the brakes on, whatever. It's really not very, very safe to look at these buttons. And then they've got this awful gear selector, which they've got in both cars, but the angle of it means you're really doing whack-a-mole to press a button, and it just feels so distracting to change gear in this car. And yeah, just the whole layout of these buttons is not very well positioned. The infotainment feels better integrated than the Santa Fe, which is kind of the old iPad stuck on the top of the dash type look, but at least it's in your eye line. So yeah, that whole thing, I think the Santa Fe looks way better. Now, we can't have a comparison video without talking about space and practicality between these two cars, because that is going to be one of the key reasons why you would pick one over the other. The Santa Fe is obviously a bigger car. Dimensionally, in every way, it's bigger, and it's obviously a 7-seater. So if you really need those back 2 seats, then it's a no-brainer. You go for the Santa Fe. But in 5-seat mode, the space in the back of the Santa Fe is slightly more, and you've got more versatility because you can move the middle seats forward and back a bit. You can recline the seats in both cars, but you don't get a parcel shelf in the boot of the Santa Fe because it's a 7-seater. You do in the Tucson. However, on paper, in hybrid, the Tucson has about a 40-litre bigger boot than the Santa Fe. So yeah, it's about 616 litres, which is massive. But when you actually open the boot and you really look in with the parcel shelf retracted, I still think the Santa Fe's boot looks bigger and more practical. So in 5-seat mode, I would still say I feel like I've got a bigger boot in the Santa Fe somehow, because they're probably not measuring the same way because it doesn't have a parcel shelf. However, the boot in the Tucson is really big, and so if you have got just a couple of kids, yeah, you really don't need the Santa Fe. Interestingly, you cannot get all-wheel drive in the full hybrid in the Tucson. You can in the Santa Fe. Interesting that, isn't it? Because it's the same car under the skin, and it's also the same car under the skin as the Kia Sportage, the Tucson, and you can get that in all-wheel drive with the full hybrid. But in the Tucson I went, nah, sorry guys, your options are mild hybrid or plug-in hybrid. If you want the full hybrid, they just don't give it to you. I don't really understand that, and for a couple of reasons that could be a problem. One, if you want to do mild off-roading, and I don't think in a car like this or the Santa Fe I would ever encourage you going anywhere too rogue, but yeah, that is not going to really be very helpful. And also I found that there's a lot of wheel slip off the line in the Tucson, and yeah, if it had all-wheel drive it would probably reduce that issue quite a bit. So yeah, for me that's a bit of a fail for the Tucson. So, hope you found that useful, guys. I would say I prefer my Santa Fe in just about every category. However, I kind of prefer the hybrid powertrain in the Tucson. If I could have had that with all-wheel drive in the Santa Fe, or the diesel version of the Santa Fe, those would be my choices as opposed to the plug-in hybrid. I'm really not sold on plug-in hybrids at all. I've now owned 2 of them, and yeah, I just don't find overall the value you get back from them is really worth the extra premium. So that would have been my ideal choice. The Santa Fe for me is the best car in every other way, but the cost obviously is a big factor here. And so if you are looking more at a budget, then the value proposition of the Tucson I think still stacks up pretty good. Anyway, those are my thoughts. I'd love to know yours. So please do leave me a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.